Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with number 79 in this series Viewers Games. This one is from Don. Dear Rick, I'm a fan of Chess to Impress. I enjoy chess and I try to get better, just so I can enjoy the game more. I realize you are swamped with games, but if this interests you, I have a question about this game. When did I lose it? I was black. I don't know my opponent's name. Early on, I felt like he had me on the back foot, and eventually it fell apart. But I don't know when I was truly losing. Any insight would be appreciated. Time control was 7 days per move, but the game only took 10 days, so we were moving much faster. Whether you ever get to this game or not, thank you for what you do. Yours in chess, Don. And I have to commend you, Don, that you sent a game that you lost. We can learn a lot more from our losses than from our wins. Many viewers want to showcase their game on Chess to Impress, which is also fine. But if you want to learn, then you should study your losses, even though that could be painful. Let's have a look at Don's game, which was a correspondence game, as Don explained. His opponent was Takinites007 with a rating of 1925, and Don had a rating of 1618. E4 from White, E5 from Don, and we have the King's Gambit. Always very interesting play, very sharp opening. E takes F4, Knight F3, G5, both players play the theory, H4, G4 kicking the knight, Knight to E5, Knight F6, and now the main line is either Bishop C4 or D4, but White plays a dubious line. He takes on G4. Don found the right reply. He took on E4. And now White made another bad move. He played D4. And this is already good for black. Bishop E7 here is a great move, threatening to take on H4. I'll just give you the main line of the engine. White can take on F4, but then there is bishop takes H4 check, G3, knight takes, bishop takes, and this is very good for black. White's king is in the open, all his pawn protection is gone. But after D4, Don did not play bishop E7, he played knight G3. Don is letting his knight do all the work on its own. All his other pieces are still at home. And in chess, all the pieces want to play, they all want to be at the party. And that's why bishop E7 instead of knight G3 is a better move. Knight G3 was played, and that is hitting the rook. It's getting very complicated. White's best move here is bishop takes F4. Just let black take that rook in the corner, a full rook, because then there is queen E2 check, queen E7. Again, I give the main line of the engine. Don't think you can interpose the bishop instead, because then there is mate in 2, knight F6 check, king F8, and this is a very nice checkmate. Very beautiful. So you have to interpose the queen on E7, and then there is knight F6 check with crazy complications, but the engine thinks it's even, but this is completely crazy. Back to the game. After knight G3, White should have taken on F4, but White decided to save the rook with rook H2. Knight C6, developing that knight. Bishop takes F4. Queen E7 check. And knight E3. Now this knight is hanging. And this is an important moment. Don asked for some feedback. He wanted to know when he was losing. Here Don took on F1. What he does here is he gives his most active piece for a white piece that is still on its initial square. That knight has made 4 moves already in the first 10 moves that black played, and White had not made any move with that bishop. So White now will get, not surprisingly, a lead in development. What Don should have played here, instead of taking the bishop, he could have played and should have played knight F5. The knight is unprotected there, but this knight is pinned, and that's maybe what Don had missed, and the game is about even. But after knight takes F1, we see that White gets that lead in development and things go downhill very quickly. White took back, D6, to let the bishop out. That makes sense. Knight c3. Look at this position. White has his 3 minor pieces on nice squares, and black still has his 2 bishops at home. White has an advantage in development, and especially with the king in the center, that is dangerous. Here bishop g7 is the best move. Let's look at the moves that happen in the game. Knight ed5, hitting the queen, queen d8, queen e2 check, and then bishop e6. White is a bit better, but black is still in the game. So bishop g7 was the correct move, but Don played bishop d7. And now we get the same moves as in that variation we just saw. Knight ed5, hitting the queen, queen back, queen e2 check, and now the best move is bishop e6. And that's moving that bishop twice, but black could have had this position with this bishop on g7, and that makes a big difference. In fact, after queen e2 check, Don did not play bishop e6, which is really the only move. He blundered with knight e7. And if you want to look why this is a big blunder, then you can put the video on pause. The game is over in one move. Knight f6 is checkmate, a smothered mate. But White didn't see it. It was a correspondence game, and both players missed the checkmate in one move. White played bishop g5 instead, turning the screws. Bishop e6. That bishop has now moved twice. Black was already behind in development, and this costs him another move. Of course, there's still knight f6 checkmate, but both players had a blind spot for that. White played rook e1. That is a very sensible move, piling on the pressure. Queen d7, and now knight f6 check is not checkmate, but it is a fork, winning the queen. White still did not see it. He played knight takes e7 instead. Bishop takes, queen takes, and d5. That is what White had seen. He did not see the checkmate and winning the queen, but he saw that he now wins a piece because of the pin. This bishop cannot move because there are 2 pieces piled up on the d-file. Queen f6 check. It doesn't really help a lot. Queen f2. The bishop is still pinned on e6. Queen back, and White decided to take the piece now. F takes, queen e2, king d7, finally connecting the rooks, but White is a piece up, and black, okay, black has a pawn extra, but really he does not have any compensation for the piece. White played queen b5 check. That's another problem black has. His king is still not safe. White's king is perfectly safe. King c8, not a move you want to make. Shutting out that rook from the game. King g1, very sensible move. Just in a winning position, put your king as safe as possible, so that there will be no tactical nonsense going on. c6, hitting the queen. Queen step back. e5, you have to do something. Try and run with that protected pass pawn. Rook f1. Rook f8. And White plays it well. Simple chess, but very strong play. Simply swapping off black's active pieces, and what he's left with is that horrible piece of wood there on a8. Don took back. Rook h3, activating that rook. All very simple but good play from White. King d7. Rook f3, hitting the queen. Queen h6. And there comes the white queen into black's position. King d8 and queen f8 check. And here Don resigned. He's going to lose that poor rook in the corner. Queen takes f8 is forced. Rook takes check. And there goes the rook. And now White is a rook and a knight up. So there were 2 critical moments in this game. This is move 7, where White has just played d2, d4. Don played knight g3 with all his pieces still at home. Bishop e7 was a very good move. Not only putting a piece into play, but also making use of the very precarious position of White's king with no pawn protection. The second critical moment is here on move 10, where white has played knight e3. The knight is hanging, and here Don decided to take on f1. As I mentioned, that knight had made 4 moves, the bishop was still on its initial square, and that gave white an advantage in development, which caused black's problems later. Knight f5 is the move here, and then it's still a game. The position here is about equal. And then lastly there was this moment when Don should have played bishop g7 here instead of bishop d7, and after this move the problems became very big very quickly because of black being behind in development, and also because of the unsafe position of the black king. And white's king is perfectly safe, can always step aside to g1 if needed. Hope this helps you a bit, Don, to understand where you went wrong in this game. It was a very interesting game, very interesting opening, and I hope you got something from it. Thank you very much for sending me this game so I could share it with the Chess2Impress community, and again well done for sending me a game that you lost. Analyzing losses is really the best training material. Thank you, Don. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess2Impress channel, and please leave a comment. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. This is Rick for Chess2Impress. Thank you for watching.